So welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we are speaking with Ruth Wolf in conjunction with her current Cerulean Collective Exhibition, which is on view now through January 14th. And Ruth has titled the exhibition Redo. Hello, Ruth.
Hi, Mike.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Please, so I guess if you want to talk a little bit about yourself and the exhibition.
No, not really.
Well,
Why don't you just ask me questions and I'll respond?
well, according to your statement that you have reused some previous canvases for this work, yes?
Correct. The three canvases that are approximately 4 by 6 feet are all canvases that are repurposed. I thought I have all these canvases and I make the decision whether I feel that I will show them or whether they become pre-primed, pre-stretched canvases for new paintings. And so I make that decision and I look at the image on the canvas and just discard it.
So the previous painting doesn't influence the new painting?
The previous paintings do influence the new paintings because every layer of acrylic paint leaves a residue, leaves a mark on the canvas. It can never be totally erased. And what is underneath is built on and becomes a new statement. But like our life, our new statements are because of our experience, because of our old statements. And so everything is a building.
So how about the small portraits?
The small portraits, 12 by 12 inches, are experiments with materials. I like to play with materials, and I like the spontaneous feel I have with the smaller 12 by 12 canvases. So I just have an idea and go to town. The one you're looking at now, I have to get my list to remember their name.
Oh, this is Amanda.
That's Amanda is dryer lint. Amanda's dryer lint, and the big issue I had with using the dryer lint is it's very fragile.
Right.
And I had to think of how, number one, to adhere it to the canvas, then how to have it stay on the canvas and not flake off, because all that was happening while I was manipulating the material. And then I put the
There's like a mesh on it.
the mesh is, that's a bag that oranges came in.
So are
And
these like real people or are they
no,
imaginary?
no, I find them in the canvas.
So you're not working from any reference, you're just like inventing them?
Well, pretty much, yes, I'm inventing them because I put down a piece of dryer lint and I found a personality in the dryer lint.
But then you name them though. This is Sylvia.
Well, after they're done, actually quite some time after they're done, I title them, I give them names. I want them to be identified. I don't want them to be part of the unknown masses. I want them to be I want them to have being. Their being is limited to their 12 by 12 inches, but they are they need a name. They need to be called something. It's not hey you.
Right. And this is Dora.
Dora is a color study. The pink and the green being complementary colors, and I wanted to see how little information I could give, but still have Dora be a being, be a person, and have a personality, and the little blue one is Sylvia.
Yeah.
Little blue one, Sylvia, and that's charcoal and spray paint. And then I found a little silver necklace to put around her neck, so that's in Dora the pearls are painted in, but in Sylvia the necklace is a piece of necklace.
So you use a portrait for material studies as opposed to like just an abstract painting.
Well, all painting is abstract. We deal with um, marks, making marks on the paper. We deal with shape. We deal with color. We find space. We find light.
But then
But
people,
we also need to find something else. I feel I need to find something else, and so I make a personality, or I develop a narrative.
and I mean, this definitely has a strong narrative quality. It's called still, it's still life.
My still life was actually a last minute decision to include in the show. This is an older painting. This could have been repainted, or it could have been significant enough to show again. And this painting I felt was significant enough to show again, especially now. And still life is a painting device, something that all painters do at some point in their development. They set up a still life on a table and they learn how to see. But in this instance, still life refers to there still being a sentient human being depicted. And I like the play on the words, and I use that as the title.
So this has like a very strong, like loaded, like narrative happening here.
Well, this painting was a response to what happened to Daniel Pearl,
The journalist
the journalist. Yes,
who
and
was beheaded.
2002.
Right.
That's 21, almost 22 years ago, because it's almost 22 years ago that happened, and we haven't learned anything.
No. So it's definitely relevant.
So correct, and I wanted to show it again. I had shown this painting one time previously, and I decided to show it again. I said to myself, this canvas will not be repainted. I can't say that about a lot of canvases. A lot of my paintings are layer upon layer, year upon year of repaint. And that's a whole story about how we edit our own history and as a painter, and having painted for quite a few years now, I have recorded a history. Some of these records I decide to not edit, and some of these records I decide to edit, and that takes us to the 3 paintings, which are part of a much larger series of I've lost count. I believe I'm up to about 7 or 8
In the
um,
series,
of these repaints,
uh-huh.
of these redos, and I have found them to be I have found myself very engaged with the process.
Well, and I mean, there's also like a strong narrative or story component here. I mean, I think the viewer is, gonna try to figure this out. Is
Well,
that
that's part
like,
of the game. That's part of the fun. Is figuring it out. People will take their own experiences, go to a work, and read into it what they feel connects with them. And that's not only true with the visual art. That's true with the written word. It's true with music. I mean, we all get out of that art form what our experience tells us. And
I mean, does it matter to you what story they come up with, or is it all?
I look forward to hearing their stories more than I'm asked to share mine, but I prefer to hear. I know my story. I don't need to tell my story over and over again. I've told it on canvas. I enjoy very much to hear other people's stories and to see what it is that draws them into a work that I have done.
So where do you generate the imagery for a painting like this? Or how do you generate it? Where does it come from?
Yeah, sometimes I ask myself the same question, Mike. I can do a painting and I can come back the next morning and look at it and I can say, where the hell did that come from and who did it? Um, I- the- that's a very hard question. Sometimes it's just a spark of a bump of paint that goes into a direction that I didn't think about 30 seconds before.
So do you use like preparatory materials like drawings, photographs, or anything?
I have photographs. I do a life drawing class once a week. I look at pictures all the time. I take pictures with my camera phone. I have references floating through my head, and then I'm working in the studio and I grab one of those references, and um and that's the fun part.
Mhm.
That's the fun part, is to see where it's going to go. It's now this was another
Yeah, we have another
exercise
series of portraits. Mhm.
in the materials, because that is actually a piece of burnt paper that I took out of the fireplace, and I adhered it with. That was a process of using a few different um,
Yeah, how did you get it
materials to
to
get it to
stick?
stick,
Yeah.
and then like everything else, there were areas that had to be inked in because they needed to work as a composition. It's still a piece that needs to work as a composition. as well as being a exercise in materials. And I wanted to have the contrast of that rich black and still have as white a white as I could find, and the white is whiteout.
Whiteout.
Whiteout, yeah, we all use whiteout. It covers up our mistakes,
Yes.
right? So
So are you using it in all the white area or just is
it's in
that completely
it's
colored?
in the white area that is the shape of the shirt,
Ah, okay.
and it's in the white area that is in the white of the eyes.
Yeah.
But the white that is in inner space between the flaky is the canvas, the white of the canvas.
I mean, it's interesting. It reads, I mean, as material, but also as like a representation of a beard. So,
That's the fun part.
it's
That that's the fun.
the
That's
image
where
and the
that's
material.
exactly, that's where the face came in finding a way to adhere the charcoal, and in the process of adhering it moved, and as it moved I found Fred.
Mhm. So you started just with the material and the portrait emerged from it.
Correct.
Mm. So are you working on multiples at the same time of these, or you do them one at a time?
I do them and they get to a certain point, and uh I go away from them. I want to I need to consider shape. I need to consider color. I need to consider whether it's a person. It really is a person. Yeah, does this speak as a person, or is this again a redo? Just start find somebody else, reuse the canvas, start
Mm.
somebody. I don't want to throw away a canvas.
No.
We got to buy all this stuff, it doesn't grow on trees. And so I this one
This is
Gary uh
Alice.
Gary this
Gary with the beard.
Gary went through a lot of permutations, and there's a lot of white out on Gary because Gary wasn't quite right for quite some time. And I still question whether this piece is needs to be developed a little bit more. But that's such a it's a very minor itch. It was so minor that I really like the way you put the three with the red color together. I think they're stronger as a trio than each individual piece, and that was, I had never looked at them like that. I'd always had looked at them either all 7 on the wall at the same time or individually. I had never put these 3 together as a suite, and they look sweet together.
Well, the red and white patterning they pick up from
And the
each
the
other.
gold
Yeah.
in Gary and the gold in Betty.
Yeah, I mean, you could arrange them in an infinite number of combinations. And
And that's part of the fun of having a bunch of these 12 by 12 portraits is being able to create little parties.
and this is Alice.
This is Alice. so Alice is, I used a piece of scrim. I adhered that to the canvas first. So I wanted that,
Frame is like a
I
mesh.
wanted that grid texture first, and then I used that, the paint, because it's this grid
Yeah.
screen, the paint pulls differently across the surface. There's no slick quality to it. It's a very textured pull on the brush.
So
And
do you lay it down and then paint over it, then remove it, or is it?
no, I lay it down, and it becomes part of the surface. It's I try to, you can if you look along the edge, you can see little fragments sticking out from where I cut.
Right.
And
Well, they definitely have a textural, three-dimensional sculptural quality.
that's part of the fun for me, is to have that materiality.
And then you don't frame them, so they have like a object quality, you
Well,
know.
I try to use the either 2-inch or an 1.5 inch of the side.
Right. So they have
So
substance.
it becomes more object. It's And then they're so easy to move around. They're so portable. The 12 by 12 size is really just
Well,
e-
then the grid,
easy, because you have a 4 by 6 foot canvas like this, and it's you put it up on the wall. You don't want to take it off the wall and twist it around to see how it looks upside down all that much, because you got to take it off the wall and deal with this object.
when you're also using the grid here, like
Well,
in multiples, you know, as opposed to individual like portraits, you've got it it divided. You've divided your surface.
when I wrote the statement, I addressed the grid, and when these paintings were first done, some of them could be 30 years. I transferred a drawing. I had drawings, and then I made paintings based on drawings. And the way I transferred the drawing was that I put on a string grid
Mm.
that was 12 by 12. I would mark them off a foot by a foot, and I marked off the drawing in an inch to a foot. That was the scaling. And then I would put the drawing in charcoal or graphite, and then I would remove the grid. And when I went and I started this whole series of redos, I wanted to, number one, express the support, which is why they look like they're framed. That's the wooden support that the canvas is on. I bring that to the surface, and that's how I start. As if I was building a stretcher, I put the grid in, I put the frame in, and then the next step I would do when I did the painting previously was put in the string grid. And when on the redo, I put in the grid as a permanent compositional element.
So you entitled this Lost at Sea. Can you?
No, this one's not. Oh, this one's Lost at Sea.
Yes.
This is Lost at Sea, SEE. It's not please change it. It's not Lost at Sea, SEA. This is,
Ah,
this is Lost at Sea as in perception.
and so what are you saying here?
I was lost. My mind was going in, my mind was really racing. I was going through a lot of rethinking as well as redoing. And with this one, it's very much like a storyboard, not a single image.
Yeah. I mean, I think the grid gives it that effect that these are vignettes or different episodes of a narrative.
Well, in other paintings in this series, I have continuity between the grid. In the one that you showed previously, there was a continuity of the landscape through the grid.
Right.
And in this one, I designated the grid, but I didn't paint in the stretcher support. I just indicated it by the marks of the grid. I wanted to see what it would be like to open it up, still have the grid as an enclosure, but open it up.
And
As
I mean, what do the figures signify to you? I mean, it's definitely got a human personal quality aside from the formal grid structure.
the their shapes. I took the lower left figure. I used that in another one of these pieces, and I like the gesture of that figure, and I wanted to do it again. So I made the choice to put it in this piece as a compositional element. I did not think in terms of when I put the figure in there, what the figure was going to do, or the kind of narrative connotations that it would develop at a they developed at a later point. All the narrative connotations develop after the act of painting. I look at the painting and I ask, what does the painting need? What kind of shape does the painting need? What kind of color does the painting need? What kind of gesture does the painting need? And what kind of narrative element can I use to do that job? The
And
story,
are you kidding?
the story comes later. Yeah, and sometimes, like I said, Lost at Sea, SEE, is because I can't figure out the story in this one myself. But I kind of like the way it moves, so I said it is resolved. It's got fragments. It has bits and pieces. This is the way we go through the world. We see a bit here, we see a bit here. We're oblivious to what's happening around us. We accept things that are fabrications, and we disregard what is actually happening in front of our eyes. Maybe that's what this painting is all about. You can see what you want to see, and you can have whatever meaning you want to have. And does it make any difference? No.
And this is locked in.
Locked in was from something I read by Virginia Woolf. She was the a room of her own. She talked about being how awful it was to be locked out, but how worse it is to be locked in. And it was in reference to her not being allowed to go into a college library because she was a woman. So she was locked out of the library, but then as she was writing, she wrote that sentence that I looked it up. I marked it in this book. And she says, and I thought how unpleasant it is to be locked out. And I thought how it is worse perhaps to be locked in. So that was the impetus for that painting.
So you got quite a like a heavy texture or a distressed surface here. Was that part of it, or is it just come from, is this a painting over another painting?
It
Or
is a painting over another painting, but I did stress the surface by all the layers of spray that I put on the surface. I did the there's a lot to get the white as I needed to have the pigment act as light. It took a lot of layers and a lot of different kinds of whites. And every time I put down a layer of dry material, I had to adhere it, and the act of adhering it made the surface have that quality. And the more I found that quality, the more I pushed it. And
yeah, it's definitely a really potent image with that surface quality. It's like almost like, it's electrified with contrast.
thank you. Thank you. I spent a lot of time to push these materials. They did not want to cooperate. This white was not an easy find, and I had to try a lot of different types of whites. I think I used everything from pastel to chalk to a tailor's chalk that tailors use when they mark fabric. I used waxy dry. I even had a white that was a makeup stick. And finally I managed to find a resolution.
It's a great piece. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I love all your work. It's a great show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, the painting on the outside,
What does the painting see?
what does the painting see is actually the painting that was the impetus of this whole series. this was the first one.
And again, it has a mysterious narrative quality.
Well, this one was a bit more related to a narrative because I worked off of I had a photo of three women sitting around a table having a conversation. And I used the reference of the gesture of those three figures as the three figures in this composition for the figures. And so that is a lot more specific than Lost at Sea, which is really Lost at Sea. And there's that figure that is in Lost at Sea
Yes,
with that twisted um,
that pose, the gesture.
that twisted gesture, yes.
Well, thanks so much, Ruth.
Okay, are we done?
We're done. Yes, the show is up through January 14th, and we hope people can come down and check it out. If not, you can see it on our website, ceruleanarts.com. Thanks again and have a great night.
Bye.